Auckland, New Zealand.
Look at the little dot, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tracy Edwards.
Very, very, very well done from the rest of the world.
Britain's Tracy Edwards becomes the only woman to receive the prestigious Yachtsman of the Year award. It's another first for this gutsy 27-year-old who's achieved what many said was an impossible dream, to skipper an all-female challenge in sailing's ultimate endurance event, the Whitbread Round the World race.
I don't quite know what to say, which is unusual for me. All I can say is that this should be a reward for not only myself, but for the marvellous crew which I sail with.
A crew that danced and laughed their way across the world's toughest oceans. Who gained a royal seal of approval for their adventure. But first, there was the struggle for a sponsor that ended in the Middle East after years of frustration. Just to get maiden sailing took grit and determination. And sweet success would follow later for the 12 brave women on board. This then is their story, a triumph for the female spirit.
I can't believe that little horror of 3 years old grew up to do this. I really can't. When we do go
Tracy competed in the last Whitbread as a cook, then one of the few positions open to women in the male-dominated world of ocean racing. Just how many meals would Tracy be cooking?
That side there.
2,760 on the first leg.
Oh, you obviously. And how long does that take? I mean, what sort of day do you have? When do you start?
I do breakfast in 2 do's and lunch and dinner the same. Half an hour before the 8 o'clock watch, I get the watch that's sleeping up, give them breakfast. The 8 o'clock watch comes down, I give them breakfast. Then I start on lunch and just do hot chocolate and nibblies for the night.
You must spend all your time in the galley.
No, I do get off the deck sometimes.
So why do you do it? I mean, there must be lots of people who say you must be mad.
I am. No, it's I enjoy cooking and I enjoy sailing, so might as well put two together. Might as well earn money while I'm doing it.
Next on the menu, though, was a true all-female challenge. At the Southampton Boat Show in 1986, she announced her intentions for the first time.
People are going to argue. Men are going to say that they can't do it and women are going to say that they can do it until time ends. So someone has to do it to prove either way.
With a small band, most of whom would last the whole project, Tracy bought a small boat.
I wanted to do the race again with more of a challenge, more of an Everest to climb. And it will be special because I think we can achieve so much and we can take women's yachting forward a few years during one race. The project is geared to winning on our own boat at the moment, and it's quite heartbreaking seeing the plans of the boat and, you know, sort of we haven't started building it yet.
The problem's finance. Tracy needs £1.5 million to build the specially designed 65-foot racer, another $1 million to campaign it.
Someone will step forward. This is too good an opportunity to be missed.
But nobody does. The project's in danger of folding until Tracy, in desperation, sells her house to buy a second-hand boat. In spring 1988, she pays £100,000 for a wreck with a pedigree. It's an ex-Whitbread yacht, but needs an extensive refit. Trying to raise more money, Tracy comes up against the same inbuilt prejudices.
Not least of our problems has been that with the fact that we are an all-female crew. Maybe that did have something to do with it, that they felt that if the boat sank or if we lost someone, then it would be a tragedy, and people would say, why did you give them the money?
God bless him and all who saved him.
The tide started to turn when the Duchess of York christened Maiden. Another royal family noticed and, through their own flagship company, stepped in. Royal Jordanian Airlines were to back Tracy's dream. The first cash injection would pay for the women to compete in the aptly named warm-up event, the Route of Discovery. From Cadiz in Spain to Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, across the Atlantic and across all the prejudices that had been set up against them. Maiden went south, much further south than most of the fleet, which contained 10 other Whitbread boats. And it worked. They enjoyed favourable conditions and the 3,800-mile course was run in just over 19 days. Maiden, confounding all her critics and doubters, won her class, came second on handicap and beat all those other round-the-world yachts.
The girls performed brilliantly. The boat performed brilliantly. It's a very fast boat. And even though it was the girls' first race, they did very, very well.
It's a rabbit on a stick.
I think we should talk about that thing.
Get some duct tape and we'll give it a tasting.
The shore crew had played their part too, and now the boat was resplendent in Royal Jordanian colours. The grey livery, the pink shorts, would become their trademark around the globe. On the boat, the race is on to be included in the crew. There's no shortage of sailors wanting to come aboard. The only real problem is striking a balance between the right skills and the right personalities.
For a girl, it's quite difficult to do the Whitbread, and then, you know, all-female crew is one of the only opportunities you've got to actually do it and be a sailor doing it, rather than a cook or something else like that. And I'm sure there'll be times when I'll be terrified, and I mean, anyone who says differently is, you know, probably not telling the truth.
On this boat, I feel it's more, it's something special. The team, the spirit in the team, it's very good.
Well, the spirit may have been good, but in the month before the race, some elements of the media give the women their first taste of bad publicity, casting fresh doubts on their chances and ability. They could only retreat to their pink crew house and concentrate on the job of becoming the first ladies of ocean racing as the start draws ever nearer. The Duchess of York takes more than just a passing interest in Maiden. She spends a day sailing and sampling life on board. Maybe the Duchess is even a little bit envious.
She's a very similar sort of person to the girls that we have on the boat, outgoing, adventurous. You know, she flies helicopters, and recognition from royalty is something that we can, you know, really treasure.
But make no mistake, it's a Spartan existence on board with few creature comforts. Conditions down below are cramped yet practical.
There are no frills. This is our luxurious head, which is about the size of a cupboard. And in here you have the nav station. It's all your navigational equipment, computer, radios, chart table. In here you have the galley. As you can see, the oven top gimbals here. There isn't actually an oven, it's just the burners on the top, which we only use 4 burners. All these racks here are for food storage, and they have a plastic covering around them with a zip, which you can open up. And as we carry freeze-dried food, it may look like a small space, but it all packs in the sort of little packets of powder. Here you have the living accommodation, which is 12 bunks. Each person must have their own bunk. And as you can see, these are on a pulley system, which means that if the boat's heeled over, you can pull your bunk up to keep you on a flat level. Up forward, we have the engine, which we've built a case around, which is serves as a workbench. So there's a vice on it, and any rigging work or stuff that we have to do with the engine or the generator gets done here. Here's the water maker, which of course is very important because we have freeze-dried food, so we have to make a lot of water every day. And that's home sweet home.
Yes, home for the next 9 months. On September the 2nd, 1989, the Whitbread fleet gathers on the start line near Southampton. Maiden's given a special send-off by her royal godmother.
There she is at the top. There she is up there. Oh, yeah.
Grace, this is Maiden.
Yes, is Tracy there, please? Introductions here.
Yes, speaking, this is Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. I just want to tell my girls that they better win.
Right, yes, we will, no problem.
Will you give her a cheer?
3 cheers?
Yes.
Okay. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
The 23 Whitbread racers are on their way. Maiden makes a bad start, but it hardly matters. As the women cross the line, they enter the history books. Tracy's impossible dream has become reality.
This time last year, we really didn't think we'd be here. We really didn't think we'd be on the start line. So we're all pretty emotional, yes. So I think everyone's just very excited and we're just ecstatic that we're here.
The race is made up of 6 legs, the first to Uruguay. The second is the Rio Marathon, 7,500 miles to Australia. Next, the sprint to New Zealand. Then it's back into the Southern Ocean around Cape Horn to Punta del Este again. From there, it's through the Caribbean to Florida before the final charge to Southampton, 33,000 miles. The women's round-the-world adventure has begun. Ahead of them, 6,500 miles to South America. Unknown territory to all, but the skipper. The maiden voyage to Uruguay crackles with tension. Every crew member feels on trial. The women are in the competitive small boat class, and Tracy, the navigator as well as skipper, stresses the importance of doing well. To just finish isn't good enough.
I mean, if you're going to do a race, you're going to do it to win. Otherwise, why do anything? I'm going to do anything, you've got to aim for the top. Otherwise, there's not really much point aiming anywhere else. So if you want to work fast and work well, you have to get on together, and that's very, very important, especially as you're together for such a long length of time. I mean, if the crew's not working together or not happy together, the boat's not going to work well.
The watch system gives the crew a maximum of 4 hours sleep at any one time. Life on board revolves around working, sleeping and eating. Usually mushy, freeze-dried food, so freshly baked bread is a real treat.
Not bad. The best cheese sandwich. I've had all day. I've had all my...
All the while, they're learning about the boat. It soon becomes clear Maiden hates light weather. She needs strong winds and big seas to really fly. But conditions are quite the opposite. The wellies remain neatly stacked and hardly worn. Then off Brazil, the foul elements strike with a vengeance. Gale force winds on the nose make sailing difficult and uncomfortable. Maiden doesn't respond well punting into headwinds. She's like a wild bucking bronco, and the crew hang on for their lives. The storm rages for several days. By the time it's over, the women have developed a tremendous bond.
The crew have just been brilliant. They're the best crew I've ever sailed with, ever. And I just can't imagine going back to sailing with men. I mean, that's one thing I've learned. It is so nice sailing with women. They're much cleaner, tidier. We've just had a great time.
Happy birthday, dear Angela.
By a strange coincidence, there are 3 birthdays on board, all within 24 hours of each other. The celebrations have begun, and more are to follow when Maiden sails into Punta del Este 35 days after leaving Southampton. It hasn't been the most successful voyage, more an education. The women have learnt a lot from their mistakes. They crossed the finish line at the end of leg 1 in 3rd place out of 5 in their class. But at least they've made it, contrary to what many yachting pundits had forecast.
Coming in here, and we saw the first boat and then the second boat. Then we heard the gun go off, and we came in here and there was this, and it suddenly all became a reality, and everyone's crying now.
And waiting for the birthday girls, another cake, baked by Nancy's mum and carried as hand luggage from England via Rio and Montevideo to Punta.
It's been a brilliant day. Great to arrive here, and this cake is just amazing. Mother's gone to a lot of effort for this and bringing it out here and everything. It's great.
There's a couple of crates of beer there that really are asking for somebody to drink them, and there's a few people we'd like to see and have a meal with, and maybe a shower will come into it somewhere, I think.
The stopover in this chic South American resort gives the crew time to recharge their batteries, catch up on lost sleep and have fun. Several are accomplished horsewomen as well as sailors, and on a deserted beach out of season, the skipper leads her gauchos on the gallops.
Horses was my first love. Now it's taken second place to boats, I'm afraid. I was just saying there to Nancy, it would be a perfect world if we could take horses on boats.
It's nice, relaxing, enjoyable to get away from sailing a bit, do something completely different.
And third was Maiden.
The Duchess of York times her holiday in Uruguay to coincide with Maiden's arrival and is guest of honour at the prize giving. Tracy makes a promise to the Duchess there and then to win the next stage.
The reason that the other boats are so good against us on the first leg is because of the light air. We are a heavy boat. We don't fare well in light air. We need a lot of wind, some good waves, and the boat moves. So hopefully that will be our advantage on the next leg because they're much lighter than us.
As Maiden heads out of the River Plate, the women's hearts are thumping. This is to be their big test. The second leg is the longest and the toughest, 7,650 miles across a freezing wilderness to Western Australia. The kingdom of the iceberg, of the roaring 40s and the screaming 50s. This is the Southern Ocean. Yachtsmen find the cruel sea here both exhilarating and terrifying. Maiden's on the crest of a wave, but topples off. The boat heels violently and it's white knuckle time. Sailing out here, it's a fine line between life and death. On another yacht, Crichton's Naturally, 2 crewmen are swept overboard. Tony Phillips is recovered, but can't be resuscitated. He was 36. The other victim is suffering salt ingestion, hypothermia and diarrhea. There's no medic on board. Tracy stays in constant touch with Crichton's while her ship's doctor radios medical instructions which saves the life of Bart van den Dwee. 27-year-old Claire Russell is cool and thoroughly professional.
The major worry for me was that he would get a pneumonia. It's very difficult when you're not there. Initially it was every 2 hours. His temperature and pulse and everything was being taken, and then we spread it out longer and longer and longer, but Tracy and myself were on the radio all the time, really.
Claire's skills are much in demand. This hostile environment attacks the body in strange ways.
Your fingernails don't grow, your hair doesn't grow. All the energy in your body is being used to keep yourself warm, and any cuts were not healing. All the cuts on your hands, which you get all the time, were very prone to infections, and several of the girls were having really bad problems with circulation. Their hands would be very numb, and it would take them about an hour on their next watch before they could start moving again.
It's not just the intense cold. There's the ever-present danger from what lurks above and below the water. A whale can sink a yacht with one flick of its tail. And in foggy conditions, the women play Russian roulette, relying on the radar screen to dodge icebergs in their path. But spirits are high.
Where are we going, Tracy? Where are we going? We're here. And we're going right on there. There. Where it's warm. Yes. Yes. Alcohol.
There's still a few thousand miles to go before they reach Australia, and work on deck goes on. It never stops, day or night. In the Whitbread Round the World race, crews push their boats to the limit. changing sails in all weather and at all times to maximize speed. It's a tough physical job, but the women cope just as well as the men.
There has never been a problem of strength or power that we haven't been able to overcome with either adaptation or using a bit of nous. And if somebody notices that somebody might be in a precarious position or the sheep might be round the leg, something like that, everybody looks out for everybody else. And that's something I haven't quite noticed so much on guys' boats.
By now, the extreme conditions are taking their toll. Sails made of bulletproof Kevlar are ripping like silk handkerchiefs. Maiden's sewing machine is working overtime. The entire crew is kept busy repairing and maintaining equipment.
Sometimes it crosses your mind, what if the mast went now, what if something happened now. They just sort of cross your mind, they don't stay there at all. They just sort of flit in and flit out. Miserable because you're cold and you're wet and you're tired and you're thinking about people at home or something like that and getting a bit depressed about that. And then the people around you will bring you out of it, which is really good.
I'm in charge of entertainment a lot of the time. I'm the one who acts the clown I think. But everybody fits in well. Everybody knows each other now so well that you know when somebody is quiet, if they're in a bad temper, or you just know how to take each other.
Such is the camaraderie, everyone joins in a spontaneous aerobics class. They're physically and emotionally drained, yet they've come to make light of the hardships and draw strength from their bond of friendship. Joking to the camera is one way of letting off steam, momentarily forgetting the pressures of the race. But danger is never far away. Sally Creaser puts on a brave face even though she's badly cut her head and nose.
Just come and watch. I was half asleep and the boat broached and I just kept going head first into a winch. The winch suffered no damage at all. The nose got hurt, the eye just went black in sympathy.
After 5 weeks in the most testing waters in the world, Maiden arrives in Fremantle. She's 30 hours and 250 miles ahead of the nearest rival in her class. A triumph for Tracy and her crew. It's the first significant victory by a British boat in the race for over 10 years. The perfect riposte to those who said they didn't have the strength or the stamina to survive the terrible forces of the Southern Ocean. Tracy takes great delight in receiving the winner's trophy. Maiden had won the longest and toughest leg.
It was as bad as we thought and as good as we thought. It was everything we'd hoped it would be and everything we dreaded it would be. From when you're knee-high to a grasshopper, if you're a woman, you're told you have to look like this, be like that, you have to use this, use that, you can't have spots, you can't have this, you have to wear the right things. Gave us so nice. You spend 28 days, you don't have to wash, you don't have to dress properly, you don't have to do your hair. It's great. We loved it.
And the proudest mum in the world is there to congratulate her daughter. Pat Edwards is overjoyed to see Tracy safe and well. The bad times already forgotten.
I think my most fabulous experience up there was when I was sitting up by the spinnaker changing a sheave, and I looked down and there's an iceberg floating by me, and I look at my hands and the snow, it's just snowing, sleeting snow around me. I looked down on the deck and here's my crew members, and they all gave me a big wave and a cheer, and I was sitting out there absolutely freezing, trying to work a spanner in my hands, trying to hang on in the seaway. Someone yelled up, "We're doing 15 knots, we were surfing," and the boom's hitting the water and there's just spray all below. I had a small camera tucked down inside my jacket, and I reached down, pulled it up and took a photo, so I hope it comes out because it was just static up there.
Maiden's exploits are capturing the imagination of school children around the globe. The crew wade through a pile of posts waiting for them in Fremantle.
2 maiden girls are a lot better than boys. There are letters from schools from all over the world, from New Zealand and Australia, England and Germany. And they're wonderful letters and Christmas cards, and all beautifully hand-drawn, painted collages, and it's really cheered us up to read them. They're excellent.
Meanwhile, Maiden's rivals are stunned by her victory. L'Esprit de Liberté of France took the first leg prize. The Belgians on Ruckanore are heard to say Maiden's win was a fluke. Male egos are bruised and bent on revenge. Competition on the water has turned into a battle of the sexes, with the women growing in confidence all the time. Having proved themselves once, they believe they can do it again.
We've got to know the way Esprit and Ruckanore think now over the last 2 legs, and it's really a battle of minds now. And we know when they're going to do one thing, then we should possibly do the other. And it's really us finding the wind and making the effort rather than just sort of pushing the boat in light airs.
And the 3 main rivals are together as the fleet leaves Australia. The third leg of the race is a comparative sprint, only 3,434 miles to Auckland, the city of sails in New Zealand. Maiden continues to shadow the opposition. The cold, grey, cloudy weather holds memories of the last leg. Perhaps it's a good omen.
Christmas Day, it's time to get up.
Santa Claus has filled their Christmas stockings.
Plastic Father Christmas. But every boat needs 12 of them.
This is better being at home.
I know. I didn't get any stupid underwear that Mom always gives me.
Cheers! Happy Christmas, everybody! Happy Christmas!
God, this is nice.
Good, isn't it? I love French.
Lucky we've all got one.
It may be Christmas, but none of the opposition's easing up, and neither is Maiden.
Ruckanore is 9 miles behind. Esprit is 9 miles behind. Schlüssel is 7 miles in front. Crichton's is 20 miles in front. Equity and Laura is 21 in front, and the cost is 86 behind. 86!
There's not much of a break for sailmaker Tanya Visa. She's in the bosun's chair sorting out a high-level problem. Her crewmates find a few more presents to unwrap.
I think men tend to be a lot more independent than women are, and we all get on tremendously well, which is brilliant. And we're just a sort of happy family type atmosphere. We all muck in and laugh together, and that's what makes it special, really.
The women see in the new year hauling sails on deck. They're leading their class, but by the narrowest of margins, and can't afford to relax for a second. It's during a sail change in the early hours of 1990 that Tanya receives an injury above her right eye. 4 stitches are required, and Dr. Russell performs the delicate operation by torchlight.
Do you know how much I hate watching this?
You are a cameraman.
I'm not a big one.
You have to do it.
This is Maiden at her best, surfing along in a strong breeze and a good swell. But heavy weather's putting a strain on those who wrestle with the wheel. Dawn's wrist is strapped up.
You use one hand on top of the wheel, another hand down at the bottom, and it's the bottom hand, the one that takes all the impact from the waves.
The 26-year-old watch captain has developed painful tendinitis.
The tendon runs in a sheath of muscle, and the constant back and forth heats it up from the friction, and that causes irritation. And one morning I couldn't even get food in my mouth with my right hand. I had to start using my left hand. Any movement at all hurt.
A few days from the finish and out of the gloom, they spot their main rival, L'Esprit de Liberté, just ahead. The 2 boats spend the next 24 hours smashing along together with storm-force winds on the nose. All the pounding opens up 4 hairline fractures in Maiden's mast, but there's no let-up. She must pass the French yacht before reaching Auckland. Just after midnight, following 15 days at sea, Maiden crosses the finish line to win her 2nd leg in a row. L'Esprit is only 40 minutes behind. It had been the closest of contests. Despite the late hour, 10,000 Kiwis turn up to salute Maiden's achievement. Once and for all, they've proved their success is no fluke. They now lead overall by 16 hours.
We're a very competitive class. They wanted revenge this leg, and we were determined they weren't going to have it. They pushed us very hard, we've pushed them very hard. We've all enjoyed it, and we feel that definitely this leg they accepted us as equals and raced against us as such, and that means a lot to us. We feel we've achieved a lot, and we really enjoyed it. It was great.
The autograph hunters are quick to pounce. In New Zealand, Tracy's treated like a pop star.
It's a big shock to the system. It's not only happening to me, it's happening to the girls as well. You find kids come down to the boats and they know everyone's name. They know all the crew's name, they know what we all do, what job on the boat. It's really good.
Yes, the crew are much in demand, fated wherever they go. Kiwis love sailing almost as much as their rugby and can't get enough of Maiden. Escaping from the public eye becomes difficult. The women strike up a close friendship with the Irish yacht NCB. And a party's organised for both crews. Here they can really let their hair down and reveal a few hidden talents.
It's been a wonderful stop, but everyone's really ready to go. The girls have had a holiday, we've done all the work we need to on the boat. We really feel that it's you know, when you sort of get itchy feet, it's time to go back to sea again, and we feel like that now.
We've been here 3 whole days.
The rig has been checked and double-checked at this halfway stage of the race. It's clocked up nearly 18,000 miles in 4 months. The stress fractures which were discovered during the last leg are repaired, and so is Dawn's injured wrist. She's given a special lightweight support.
It's been molded to my hand by a cast, and so it's comfortable to wear. It was done by the North Shore Hospital here, and the guys were great. They really got into it, making sure that it would last through the cold weather, and the only thing I have to be careful in the doldrums not to leave it sitting out in the sun too long, or it'll melt.
But one major landmark stands between the women and the heat of the doldrums. Cape Horn.
It's where two oceans meet, it's where two weather patterns meet. It can be very, very dangerous, but it's mystical, it's magical, and everyone looks forward to it. It's the peak.
Lake Four takes Maiden back into the bleak Southern Ocean. Then it's round the Horn to Uruguay again, 6,255 miles. The Auckland restart, a highlight of the race, lives up to expectations. Tens of thousands take to the water in every available craft. Maiden threads her way gingerly through the spectator fleet. But another Whitbread yacht hits big trouble. She tangles with an anchored boat and one of her masts tumbles down. Maiden steers clear of problems. She's safely on her way. As the women bask in summer sunshine, they've mixed feelings about returning to the Southern Ocean.
Obviously you don't look forward to the cold and wet and being miserable, but I mean sort of the motto on the boat is if you're cold, wet, miserable, you're going fast.
At the start of the long haul to Cape Horn, frustration quickly sets in. There's no sign of the roaring 40s, not even the whimpering 20s. Maiden's plodding and her rivals are getting away. Whales, though, are a constant menace and put paid to Ruckanore Sports' hopes of catching the women overall. The boat's rudder is damaged and the Belgians have no choice but to return to New Zealand. They later rejoin the race, but Ruckanore's out of the running. Back in the frozen wastes, Maiden's crew are actually shedding clothes, it's so warm. Temperatures normally at this high latitude are close to zero. And still, there's no wind.
We've made a terribly dramatic start to this lake. We've been out here for 9 days and we haven't reached 11 knots yet. However, there is always hope.
This is a high pressure, and it's attached to us by elastic.
When the change does come, the weather's foul. A black depression settles over the crew. Neptune is just not smiling on them. Where are those fair but forceful winds which catapulted Maiden to victory in Leg 2? These conditions would bring on anxiety attacks in the early days.
We've been thrown into a lot of situations that nobody had been in before. We know how we cope with them now. I think we've got a greater insight into our own personalities than we had before, and it can't help but give you more confidence.
And once again, the women put their lives on the line. During one bad storm, a rogue wave the size of a house crashes on deck and sends helmswoman Michelle Paré flying. Confined to her bunk, there are fears she has an injured spine. Luckily, it's just bad bruising. The buckled wheel is testimony to the force of the wave. Nothing, it seems, is going right.
It's been pretty wet and cold and miserable. We've had a couple of days without power, without the generator or the engine working, and it's been very difficult switching off all the lights and everything and not being able to use the radio. All in all, it's been a pretty nasty couple of days, really.
Always look on the bright side of life.
And the crew is going absolutely stark raving bonkers.
3 weeks after leaving Auckland, Maiden becomes the first all-women crew to round Cape Horn. A subdued Tracy toasts the occasion.
They said that Cape Horn would be the high point of Leg 4. As far as I'm concerned, it's the only point of Leg 4. It's pretty impressive to go around it. It's really good because it means we'll be going north soon. And it's pretty awesome when you think of all the ships that sank going around it.
And Maiden herself narrowly escapes joining those wrecks in Davy Jones' locker. There's an emergency.
We discovered a leak when we were heeling over to starboard, which could be something on deck level on the starboard side, although we still haven't found it. Basically, it took us 24 hours to pump the water out as fast as we could pump out. The water was pouring in. In the end, we had to use the engine to pump the bilges out. It was well up above the floorboards and up to the second bunkers, which, as you can imagine, was pretty hairy.
To cap a miserable voyage, Maiden falls into light airs 100 miles from the finish. While l'Esprit de Liberté sails into Punta, and her French skipper collects the winner's trophy. When Maiden arrives a day and a half later, her overall lead has vanished. She now trails l'Esprit by 16 hours, but there are no recriminations.
They've stuck behind me. There haven't been any moans or grumbles. They're with me when we win, they're with me when they lose, which is a very nice feeling, one that I've just discovered recently and makes me feel very good.
Leg 5 doesn't bode well for Maiden. Light winds generally prevail all the way to Fort Lauderdale in Florida, 5,475 miles. And sure enough, they soon find themselves adrift of the leaders. They'd been hoping against hope for a strong breeze, but it hasn't materialized yet. Knowing full well that Maiden's slower than her rivals in these conditions, the skipper locks herself away in the nav station. She spends hours studying the weather and wind, juggling the shortest course against the fastest speed. Only superior tactics can win this leg for Maiden. But the leader's going well, and she's in front. But how far in front?
Esprit de Liberté, Maiden.
Maiden, this is Esprit. Good morning, Tracy. My position 0735034.
The race is slipping away from her, and Tracy knows it.
Esprit de Liberté, Maiden, got your position.
But morale is still high. There's always the chance l'Esprit will break something or fall into a flat calm in the doldrums.
We never give up. It's taken us so long to get this far. We're not going to give up now. We're all here to win. None of us are passengers. And if we're doing badly, then that just makes us want to do better.
But the sailing is tedious. Having battled against the elements, they're now fighting boredom. Michelle makes a standby sleeve for the boom in case it breaks. Tanya, the sailmaker, is a qualified dentist, and Angela needs some new fillings. Anything to stay occupied.
Fish that come on the boat, and they're usually about this big, and they come and they get scales all over the deck. And of course, being the rough and tough sailors that we are, we don't want to touch these things. So we go on flying fish patrol. The fish in question, it's huge. Ah!
In Fort Lauderdale, a ducking is the dubious reward for the skipper of l'Esprit, who has once again beaten Maiden to the finish line. The women, meanwhile, are pampering themselves. It may be macho for the men to arrive scruffy and windswept, but the Maiden crew like to look their best. And Florida's in for a special surprise. As they finish the penultimate leg in next to last place, they've discarded the usual crew uniforms.
Well, we thought if you can't win, wear swimsuits.
The glamour, the showmanship, Americans love it. Despite her lowly position, Maiden receives the best welcome of all the Whitbread yachts.
It was very frustrating knowing that Maiden wasn't capable of going as well as Esprit and Racanau. Esprit made some brilliant tactical decisions, and my arch enemy, the navigator, really outdid himself this time. So I've told him that the next leg we're going to beat the hell out of him.
During this last stopover before returning to the real world, some decide to delve even deeper into the realms of fantasy by visiting Disney World.
You lose about 20 years as soon as you walk in the gates and just go for it. It's great. It's just nice to be able to step off and sort of take a deep breath. And certainly after 5 weeks at sea, I mean, you really do appreciate coming ashore and just sort of slowing down for a little while.
Well, I've always wanted to come here since I was a baby. It's my mecca.
We'll talk about that.
It's so much fun being here. I think everybody loves this place, me included. Mickey Mouse, he's my hero and will remain so. He's a cool dude. I've carried little Mickey Mouse with me around the trip.
See you later, girls. And there I'm going. Happily ever after. Bye now. Embassy Suites, room 532.
Here's to Mickey in Disneyland.
For the last time, the women have to load Maiden. Time to reflect on their achievements as a crew and personally.
Well, I feel very happy with myself, or, you know, sort of at peace with myself, because I've been thinking about it for like 10 years that I want to do it. And on the other hand, it's very hard now because you don't know what you want to do next. Take some planning, because like this is in sailing what I've been aiming for all the time, or what I wanted to do. Hopefully, I think that all of us have learned quite a bit, like living with other people. I think for me it was quite surprising actually that it was even easier sailing with women than I thought it would be. I found that it's maybe easier than with men.
Why?
I think that men have a lot more competition with each other. Like I was sailing on Martella with them, and it's not hard, but there is much more competition with the guys, and they sort of, you know, race each other a lot, which can be sometimes, I think it can even affect decisions a little bit. And I think at least on Maiden, nobody has to prove anything.
And what do the crew make of their skipper? What has Tracy got that has taken them this far?
A sheer determination that this could happen, that an all-female crew can race the boat around the world. And it took a lot of guts and determination and a lot of hard work. But she didn't stop, she kept on and on and on.
After more than 8 months of hard racing, the final sprint back to England is underway. Ahead of the fleet, 3,837 miles. Realistically, the women can't hope to win the overall prize. They're too many hours behind. But they'd love Maiden to be the first small boat into Southampton to celebrate a third leg victory. 2 days out, and Maiden in the distance is hit by one of the most powerful forces in nature, a tornado.
Go away.
But it's drawn to the boat like a magnet. There's frantic activity as the crew try to get sails down before it engulfs them. At the tail of the whirlwind is a waterspout.
We got a lot of water and a lot more wind, and it spun us round in the 360. And it was so quick. Apparently it got off quite lively because you get like 100-mile-an-hour winds sometimes in the middle of them.
Don't worry, Marvin, it's only a tornado.
The mast is twisted badly by the spout, but Maiden presses on. Everyone's prepared to take risks now, to gamble everything on reaching Southampton ahead of their rivals. Maiden takes a 39-mile lead. The French come back at her. It's a pitched battle in the middle of the Atlantic. Dolphins are welcome visitors, but Maiden hits something much bigger, a sleeping whale. Luckily, there's no damage. If tornadoes and whales weren't bad enough, Maiden runs out of steam. The wind dies, and with it, their hopes of winning the leg. Drawing cartoons of the crew is Angela's way of getting over the disappointment and relieving boredom.
This is like your Blue Peter show, right?
Yeah, I like the Blue Peter project.
I'm drawing, for God's sake. Let the artist work. Right, yeah.
Progress is so slow, the crew's running out of food. They turn to emergency rations to supplement their forced diet.
String?
I think we might be okay for string. It's not very tasty, is it?
All right, bolognese sauce.
Right, now we have 3 packets of Smarties left.
Me.
I don't like them.
Off Land's End, Maiden is spotted ploughing through strong headwinds. The epic voyage is nearly over. Tracy, supremely confident, is already thinking of the next race. Yet 9 months earlier, she admits to being a nervous wreck.
Lots of times I thought I couldn't do it. Loads of times I wasn't sure of myself. 5 minutes before the start, I didn't know what the hell I was doing there, and I was worried about whether I could navigate well enough, and all the time this was playing on my mind whether I could and couldn't do it.
We're about 200 miles from the finish in Southampton. At the moment we're taking on quite a lot of water, and the girls are down below at the moment trying to fix bilge pumps which are broken, and fix some hand pumps and goodness knows what to try and get rid of some of the water.
Fried chocolate crunch is all that's left to eat after 3 long weeks at sea. It's going down well, though.
Do you want some, Tanya?
Yeah, I like some. There is still is some.
Oops. Oh, no. That's for Tanya.
Thank you.
Hi. Take this.
The finish now is only a matter of hours away.
That's fresh water that Mickey's had her final hair rinse in and I've had my hair rinse in. Okay. But it's warm and you may as well use it for something. So it's easy to throw it away.
We really are getting to the end of this race. This last leg has been very frustrating, it's been very long. Obviously the thoughts about finishing are very mixed. We are desperate to get in. There's a lot of family and friends waiting for us. However, there's always the sadness of finishing such a project. But I don't really think the girls are going to be separated for very long.
Soon these women will be scattered around the world. Soon their adventure will be over. Michel Paré knows they're on the last page of the story.
Some hours to the finish, and I feel very sad to finish this very nice story. Some more hours on the boat together, and I'm so sad.
In Hamble, Maiden's home near Southampton, the normally reserved sailing village is getting ready to welcome its heroines. For 9 months, the locals have watched television, read papers, shared the triumphs and disasters.
Hi. Oh, you got the boat to sort you that
Oh, smashing. Oh, I bet great. Yeah.
So emotionally that when they actually left us, you actually made it to race now. And that's incredible.
I can hardly believe it. It's incredible. And the thing that I really am pleased about are all the people who said, oh, how stupid, run along home, grow up, you can't possibly do anything like this. And there are going to be a lot of red faces, and I'm rather naughty, but I'm afraid I'm rather pleased about it.
The crew suffer light winds on their approach, and an entire weekend of will they, won't they goes by. Then on a bank holiday Monday morning, May the 28th, the dawn reveals Maiden approaching the Solent. It's day number 299 of their epic journey. Just ahead, a major embarrassment for their male rivals on Ruckinor Sport. They've run aground. The treacherous sandbanks of the Solent could be about to help the locals pinch third place. The welcome fleet is starting to gather. Maiden has been so popular, so well publicised that thousands want to say, I was there when she came in. As the tide turns, the Belgian men on Ruckinor are spared being overtaken by the women on the home run. But they're hardly noticed now. All eyes are on the grey boat.
We finally saw the first spectator boats about sunrise today off of the Needles, and then it just kept growing and growing from there, and it's been like whirlwind, people everywhere, boats. We had trouble jibing because there's so many boats there, almost ran into boats.
Ocean racer Chade Blythe is out to greet them. So is Colin Moynihan, the Minister for Sport. And by now Tracy has been told she's to be made an MBE.
We could not have had an idea of how amazing the finish would be. Not only the boats coming out to see us in, which in itself was quite spectacular. I think for me, when we came round the corner into Ocean Village and saw however many thousand people there were standing up on the dock, I found it very difficult to concentrate on driving the boat and keep my emotions in check. And the noise, which was stupendous.
After the cheers die down, the women have to shake hands with nearly everybody present.
On our way in, we kept on hearing how much it was being hyped up in England, how much Tracy having to give interviews to all sorts of different people, and they're saying, oh, Great Britain's waiting for you and everything. We're thinking, oh, they are? You know, it just didn't occur to us that there'd be that much interest. We're just doing what we wanted to do in the first place.
Everyone had their own personal achievement. Everyone set out to do it their own personal way. And to be able to do that secretly, but as a collective group, it was to share it with 11 other people, and plus the whole Whitbread fleet. The whole fleet feels the same way.
Having a set plan, knowing what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, and having a challenge. Now I have to create another challenge for myself.
It's the achievement of an ambition. The feeling that if you work a little hard and you trust a little and you risk a little, yes, dreams can come true.
I wish I could take this day and put it in a little box and wrap it all up. Sounds, sights, smells, feelings, everything, so I could open it up whenever I felt sad.
Maiden Great Britain have a merchandising catalogue. For more information, ring 0703 456 904. And Maiden, the personal story of Tracy Edwards, MBE, is available from all good bookshops. Co-author is Tim Madge, the publishers Simon & Schuster.